As you've all noticed, I'm sure over the past couple of years, I've become a huge flannel and overshirt shirt jacket type of guy. I'm so excited for today's video. I've been planning it for quite some time. I've got a roundup of some of my favorite shirt jackets and heavyweight flannels for 2024. I went back and forth on how to structure this video because there is no way to do a full comprehensive guide or list of any kind with the amount of options out there. I picked 5 of my top, heavyweight flannels and overshirts, so we're just going to be highlighting a handful of my favorites that are currently for sale right now. Hopefully that works. I'm going to have a couple of honorable mentions as well at the end, so stay tuned for that. Use the chapters if you want to skip around. But I'm so excited, so let's just get right into it. Starting off strong with a crowd favorite and arguably the most popular in this heavyweight flannel category, this is the Heart UHF Ultra Heavy Flannel. The Ultra Heavy Flannels have been around for quite some time, but this is more of a special edition I kind of wanted to start with. These went up on the site probably about a couple of months ago with a really interesting story. They essentially said that they kind of over-ordered and over-made their normal Ultra Heavy Flannels from the 2022 collection. So what they ended up doing, instead of repurposing or clearancing them out, they kind of rebuilt them into something different and unique and special. So this is their red check UHF work shirt, but overdyed with a black sulfur dye, kind of similar to how they overdye selvage denim. So what that essentially means, you have the normal red check dyeing process, which is a cheese dye with the yarn, and then they dip the entire garment in the black sulfur dye. So as this wears and ages over time, more of the red should start showing through here. Just a really fascinating and unique story, and I love the idea of having this sort of shirt patina age over time, kind of similar to selvage denim or really good leather boots. Aside from that story, you still get all of the greatness that is the kind of standard regular ultra heavy flannel from Heart. It's a 12-ounce flannel, and it's actually made from something called Asparo cotton. I did a bit of a deep dive, and Asparo cotton comes from Peru, but it's not actually farmed there, so this is all wild grown cotton that's used in the ultra heavy flannels. It definitely has a heavyweight feel, but it's not overly stiff or rough. You have a single brush on the exterior and a double brush on the interior. You can really see the difference in the textures from the exterior to the interior. I think this is a perfect blend and a perfect way to do it because I have some, double and triple brushed flannels. They just have a really nice soft feel, but it's definitely a different look compared to a hardier, unbrushed or single brushed flannel. The construction and build quality of this is just absolutely crazy. I did a ton of research here, and some of the sewing terms are a little bit over my head. I'm an excited novice that's still learning some of the terminology for different sewing techniques and everything like that. But to give a quick rundown, the general construction is a mix of single and double needle construction. Single needle construction is apparently a little bit better, but a little bit more labor intensive to do properly. It has felled internal seams, and it's actually chain stitched side gussets. When I first got it, I was a little concerned because I thought there was loose thread on here, which just felt so out of character for something built so well. And looking into it and looking on their website, apparently this is on purpose. Some people like having that extra chain stitch falling off the edge just to show the craftsmanship and to show off that you have chain stitching in your shirt. On the back here, you have a straight back yoke, so no curves for like a Western style or anything like that. You have cat eye buttons and 2 chest pockets with the same cat eye buttons, as well as a little pen holder on the side of the pocket there. Just overall build quality and everything here is absolutely incredible. This thing feels like it will last longer than I will at this point. Covering the fit really quick because I think it's especially important with this overdye series that they did. The overdye process does shrink the garment a little further than the typical ultra heavy flannel, so be sure to check the garment sizing chart. I'm typically between a medium and a large for most everything I own. I went with the large here, and honestly, I probably could have sized up even more into an extra large. I just barely squeaked by with that large myself, so just make sure that you check when you're ordering. Even if you have other ultra heavy flannels, the sizing will probably be a bit different. If you're someone that was interested enough to click on this video, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but I am just so impressed with this as my first Heart piece. It is absolutely excellent and held up to the extreme hype that has been in my head for the past couple of years of wanting to check one of these out. They have these work shirt versions available, as well as a Western style shirt with snaps if you want to go that route. From what I hear, the Western style is cut a little bit slimmer than the work shirt version. So make note of that. But they have a few other overdyes. I got the red overdye just because I really like this accent stitching. I think little bits of red poking through here in the coming years is going to look really great. But I believe they have the green and a blue overdye as well. And of course they have the regular like ultra heavy flannel lineup that they typically always have. So this is a long-standing product for them. I always like to see that compared to the quicker turnover. Incredibly impressed with this though, and on the spectrum of shirt jackets and heavyweight flannels, this definitely falls more into a heavier shirt than a lighter jacket, if that makes sense. I'll be trying to cover that a little bit here and there throughout the handful that we're covering today, but really great quality. It's going to last me so long, and I can't wait to see how this thing patinas with the overdye. Sticking with the more traditional flannel style, we have the Fireside flannel from Pladra. It's a 10-ounce flannel. It's 330 GSM, 100% cotton, and they use Portuguese flannel in the build here. I didn't really have any expectations with this one before getting it, good or bad, and I have to say I am really impressed. What really stood out for me with this one is just this texture with this sort of looser weave type of look. I've seen a handful of brands pull this off well. It's no surprise to any of the regulars around here. I'm just a sucker for really cool and unique fabrics and textures. This one does not disappoint. You have two relatively small chest pockets on the front and just pretty standard buttons here. It's a little bit of a slimmer and more tapered cut compared to a lot of traditional workwear and heritage wear and a lot of other things that we are trying today. So a little bit of a slimmer cut. A large seemed to fit me really well. Definitely wasn't super slim. I think it's more of a flattering slim than a aesthetic slim, if that makes any bit of sense. For my size and fit at least, definitely no tightness in the shoulders or anything like that. Just very comfortable in this kind of softer, looser weave type of flannel. Just kind of adds to that comfort. Felled internal stitching on this one as well, and you have triple stitching on the back yoke and the shoulders. Overall build quality is really solid, especially at this price point. You have one little Pladra logo on the chest pocket here. It's pretty subtle. I'm definitely okay with that. I would like to see, maybe a little bit bigger chest pockets here, but it's kind of getting a little nitpicky. Probably the biggest differentiator with the Pladra flannel compared to anyone else, though, is their kind of signature look. Not something that I'm particularly keen on, but definitely noteworthy. On the interior of the cuffs and as well as the back yoke, they have different sort of like outdoorsy designs on all of their flannels. This is across their entire lineup. This is their heavier weight lineup, but they have a lot of lighter weight options as well. All of them have, different outdoorsy flannels. The Deadwood red color here has white-tailed deer designs, again, on the cuffs and on the back yoke. The designs are definitely well done and tasteful if you're into it, but overall, really impressed with this brand. I have one other lighter weight flannel from them I have been using and enjoying as well. Excited to hear everyone's thoughts on this one, though, because I think it's a pretty great deal if you're looking for something really heavyweight and are on a, relatively smaller budget. Still a high-end shirt, still a big investment, but a little bit less than something like the Ironheart. Switching things up from the more traditional, 100% cotton flannel style, this is the Crescent shirt from Haven. It's a little bit apples and oranges, but this thing might actually be a little crazier than the Ironheart flannel if you're a sucker for, crazier, unique type of fabrics. When I was prepping my notes for the video, I really wasn't sure where to start with this, whether it's the aesthetics or the fabrics and build quality, because both are just so crazy and impressive. I thought it would be good to start with the aesthetics though. Compared to the last two of more traditional flannels, this is kind of a workwear meets techwear meets streetwear type of vibe. It's such a standout look and something that really speaks to a lot of my style goals and clothing. I like a lot of my heritage wear, but I do like wearing, sneakers and kind of streetwear type of stuff. And I used to wear a lot of like blacks and grays and techwear sorts of things. I feel like this is a blend of all of my favorite styles. It seems relatively straightforward at first, but the more you peel back the layers, the crazier it gets. Focusing on some of those aesthetic changes, you have these panels on the forearms that are made with 100% corduroy. And you have this, kind of standard straightforward type of check pattern on the front. On the back, you have kind of a contrast panel that's a little bit of a darker gray. They make a black one that's kind of like darker charcoal and a gray one here. I got the gray. I thought it looked a little bit nicer with the stronger contrast. So you have all sorts of different textures and patterns here going on, which I can really appreciate, but this main fabric is where everything really shines. The main fabric that they used is called Zealander flannel, and it's from a fabric mill in Italy called Loro Piana. It's 99% merino wool sourced from New Zealand and 1% silk. I actually did quite a bit of deep diving into this fabric, and it's primarily used for a lot of high-end suits and things like that. I've raved about merino wool fabric so many times over the years, I'll save you all the time and trouble. But what that leads to, aside from the merino wool properties, is just a really soft and comfortable and luxurious feeling shirt. It has a fair bit of stretch to it, and it's definitely more of a looser, flowier type of cut. So you have a little bit more room for mobility, and I think it kind of adds to that streetwear, techwear type of style. The panels on the forearms are made with 100% cotton, and those are actually from another Italian mill called Duca Visconti. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, and apologies for any Italians that might be watching. You have dart seams on the elbows as well as underarm gussets here, so this thing is just super, super comfortable. Between that and the standout looks and the functionality of merino wool as a fabric, this quickly became one of my absolute favorite pieces. Definitely not cheap, but something that will last a lifetime if cared for properly, and just with the materials that they use, you can tell they just really spared no expense when they decided to build this thing out. I can definitely appreciate that and am reaping the rewards and benefits here. This thing is totally great. Shifting back into more of a traditional workwear type of vibe, this is the shop shirt from Taylor Stitch in Gravel Boss Duck. I've had this one for a couple of years, so definitely the longest of the lineup here for my personal testing. It's always great to see these companies do repeats. The shop shirt I think is a pretty regular staple for Taylor Stitch. They will switch out and swap out with different fabrics and things over time. The one I have here though is this Boss Duck fabric, which I really like. It looks like there are a handful left on their site, but hopefully maybe they'll do a restock at some point. Otherwise, there are a chipped canvas one and a couple of others I saw when I was prepping for the video. Most of their fabrics are pretty cool anyway. But what you have here is a 12-ounce fabric. It's 54% hemp, 30% recycled polyester, 14% cotton, and 2% spandex. So that hemp really shines through. This has just a really burly type of feel. This definitely fits and feels more like a shirt, but the fabric itself feels more like a lightweight jacket, if that makes sense. This is one out of the entire lineup I really wish there were some side pockets on, because you're definitely getting into shirt jacket category here with this kind of burlier 12-ounce type of fabric. That's my only real nitpicky complaint here, because I do really love the fit and feel of this Boss Duck fabric, and I think it really would live up perfectly to the name of shop shirt. I don't do much of that these days. I'm pretty nerdy and do office work, but I grew up doing a lot of carpentry work and things like that. I think this would definitely hold up in most job sites for most people and kind of withstand that extra wear and tear. They say on the website that the fabric is stone washed to soften up the fit and feel, but this thing was extremely stiff still when I first got it. So if it was stone washed, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell. It's softened up a little bit over time, but definitely a pretty stiff and burly type of fabric. There's not really much else to say in terms of specifics here. It's pretty straightforward. You have these really nice big buttons, which I think are good so they're not falling out if you're moving around a lot. Two big chest pockets here. You have a double panel front yoke that kind of almost gives it a Western type of vibe, but it's cut straight, so it kind of has more of that jacket type of feel, like I had mentioned earlier, more so than Western. Fit is really nice here. It's pretty similar to most other Taylor Stitch items. If you're familiar or have any others, I'm a huge fan of their ledge flannel. Not quite heavy enough for this list, but one of my favorite flannels as a side note. But yeah, I wear a large in Taylor Stitch. It's a little on the slimmer side, but not overly slim. All in all, just a really solid and sturdy type of shirt. I love this hemp focused Boss Duck fabric. Hopefully they keep it up for future iterations. Next up, we've got the Flint and Tinder bone button Western shirt. It wouldn't be a proper roundup with a variety of styles, so that's something a little Western. Over the past couple of years, I've taken an affinity to kind of Western and Southwestern type of styles. I've definitely enjoyed this one so far. It's one of my newer pieces of the lineup. They have a few different fabrics and colors for this. This is the moss color. I checked right before recording. It looks like they're almost out of stock of this, but they have a couple of others if you end up liking the style. I believe the others are more denim focused focused compared to this sort of like softer twill type of look and feel. It's a 12-ounce fabric though. It's 88% cotton and 12% rayon. You have this really nice quilted pattern that goes across all of the different colors. On the interior, you have the softer flannel lining as a contrast to the exterior here. This is actually the same design and pattern of the flannel on the inside of the lined wax trucker jacket. I really love the Western look and vibes here though. You have the pointed yokes at the top as well as the pointed pockets. You have snap buttons, which is a given for Western, but what you have here are actually burnt cowbone snaps. So they kind of look like pearl snaps, but they're individually burnt cowbone snap buttons. So each burn mark looks a little bit different, just kind of a little extra fun, unique type of touch. You have the two chest pockets I mentioned, but on this one, you actually do have two side pockets here. I will say this definitely still has a shirt feel first, more so than a jacket feel. All of these are definitely more focused on the shirt side of things. I originally was going to do all heavyweight flannels, but I wanted to kind of expand out to some different fabrics. So it's kind of where we ended up here today, but you do have some side pockets. They fall along the seams here. These fully back side seam pockets was actually a big issue I had with the quilted waxed shirt jacket from Flint and Tinder. But with this being a lot thinner and smaller, I feel like it feels more like a nice addition here, more so than a problem like it did on the other jacket. Just because of the lighter weight nature of this, it kind of wears a lot more like a shirt. But I did want to mention that as well. If you've had shirts like that bothered you a bunch with the side pockets further back, but for whatever reason, it doesn't really seem to bother me with this one like it did on the wax canvas. Fit is a little bit on the snugger side compared to most of my other Flint and Tinder items. I went off their sizing chart and ended up getting a large instead of a medium. Most Flint and Tinder stuff, I usually get mediums. I am pretty happy with the large here. One kind of minor complaint, I don't know if anyone picked it up when I wore this in the video the other week, but when I was editing, I definitely noticed when I'm sitting, I think it's just because you have this reinforcement in the shoulders and they're a little bit thicker and burlier because the fabric is doubled up with the yoke. You kind of get this shoulder pad type of look when it bunches up when you're moving around. Again, just kind of nitpicky, but I don't think there's a way around that with having, reinforced shoulders like this. Maybe it's a sizing issue on my end. I don't know. Not a huge deal, but worth mentioning. All in all, though, I think this is a great look. It's really nice and warm with this soft interior flannel. Just all in all, really good piece, and it's pretty low price compared to most of what we tried today. That's it for the main 5 I wanted to talk about and feature, but I do have a few honorable mentions I wanted to bring up really quick, ones that I really like that didn't exactly fit or aren't available for sale anymore. First and foremost, Relwyn makes this like mohair quilted flannel. I got it a couple years ago. If you can find one used anywhere, I really love mine. It fits more like a jacket than a shirt compared to most everything else we tried today, but felt like the perfect fit for this video, but I knew it wasn't for sale anywhere, so it just felt useless to talk about it for everyone. Another mention here is this here that I'm wearing. This is the Cato Anvil Melton Wool. This is technically a shirt jacket, but I feel like it's much more on the jacket side of things than the shirt side of things, and I wanted to focus more on shirts for this video, but still really great. I put this in my jacket roundup video last month, so check it out if you want to see more detail. I think I did a YouTube short on it too. One other one I wanted to mention as well is the Flint and Tinder felted wool overshirt. I really love mine. It's nice, kind of Christmassy sort of look with the color scheme that I got. I got a ton of questions about it when I was wearing it back around Christmas time. Unfortunately, that one's not for sale either. So many of these companies seem to have pretty quick turnaround in their offerings, with seasonal updates and things like that. So it's tough to kind of plan and prepare, properly test these things, and still have them for sale by the time I'm ready to talk about and properly review them. But nonetheless, that was my best stab at it. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I'd love to hear what your heavyweight flannel recommendations are down in the comments, or any sort of like overshirts. Let's get a thread going of other recommendations, because like I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg here. There was no way I could cover everything. Thank you all so much for watching though, and I'll talk to you in the next one.